Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. When you are in Shinigami, you will become stronger if you pick up attributes. Chapter 21. When Lin Yue woke up, he was already in the Urahara store. Good morning, Mr. Lin. Urahara leaned against the door frame, holding a rice ball in her hand, and greeted Lin Yue with a smile. Lin Yue first looked down at himself. He is now in his own body. The wound on the chest that was received in the Shinigami state is completely reproduced on this body. The wound also felt pain from time to time, showing its existence. Urahara tilted her head. Actually, Mr. Lin, you recovered much faster than I imagined. I thought you'd be late for lunch. Want to come and eat? Quote. Lin Yue nodded, and unceremoniously took the rice ball from Urahara's hand. While eating, I recalled the scene before I passed out in my mind. First, Byakuya Kuchiki is definitely water. Otherwise, Lin Yue wouldn't end up with just one wound. Like Kurosaki Ichigo, who was directly pierced with knots and pouts, this probably has Byakuya Kuchiki's personal emotions in it. How to say, it was Kurosaki Ichigo who took away Rukia Kuchiki Shinigami's abilities and made Rukia Kuchiki a Soul Society prisoner. As a big brother, seeing the culprit who killed his sister, he didn't kill Kurosaki Ichigo on the spot. Rukia Kuchiki's concern was too obvious. Second, Zanpakuto is broken. Thinking of this, Lin Yue couldn't help sighing. Kurosaki Ichigo is too important at this stage. Both Kurosaki Isshin and Urahara Kazuki are watching Kurosaki Ichigo. If Kurosaki Ichigo really died, there might be a big mess. Not only that, except for Kurosaki Ichigo, the relationship between others and Rukia Kuchiki is far from being able to cross a world to save. If Kurosaki Ichigo is dead, there's probably no reason to save Rukia Kuchiki. As a result, the travel accident event cannot occur at all. You can't let Lin Yue go to Urahara Kazuki and say to save Rukia Kuchiki, right? Rukia Kuchiki has just transferred to another school for less than 2 months. No matter how you look at it, it is impossible to build such a deep relationship. At that time, it will be Lin Yue who will get into the attention of others. Of course, this concern may not be a good concern. Back to Kurosaki Ichigo. Kurosaki Ichigo, who has a strong degree of attention, does not necessarily need Lin Yue to stand up and save him. After all, there are too many people who want him to live. But the problem is, under the circumstances at that time, Lin Yue didn't dare to bet. He couldn't bet that someone would come out to save Kurosaki Ichigo. Therefore, he can only do it himself to protect Kurosaki Ichigo. It's just that the price is a bit high for Lin Yue. The sword of war is broken. With Lin Yue's current status, he has no ability to find the second team of the Zero Team, Wang Yu, to repair him, or rebuild a Zanpakuto. The situation of Lin Yue is different from that of Kurosaki Ichigo. Kurosaki Ichigo's Zanpakuto was severed in the sealed state, and the name of Zanpakuto has not been found yet. When he finds the name, Zanpakuto will naturally recover. But Lin Yue, already Shikai, think here. He suddenly felt a headache. I don't know if there is any way to fix it in Urahara. After all, Kurosaki Mayuri, director of the Second Generation Technology Development Bureau, was able to transform Zanpakuto himself. It is impossible for Urahara Kazuki, who is the head of the Generation Technology Development Bureau, to do it. Think about it. He looked up at Urahara Kazuki. Why does Mr. Lin look at me like that? Quote. Urahara Kazuki put on a surprised expression just right. As if he really didn't know anything. Master Urahara, you saved me and Ichigo, right? Ah, what are you talking about? You two are lucky to be met by me. Quote. Urahara Kazuki's expression of, thank me quickly, but the slight zooming of the pupils in his squinted eyes, showed his not so calm mood. Oh, I see. So, it wasn't you who knocked my soul out of my body. Quote. Lin Yue's expression was playful. Such a question made Urahara Kazuki feel embarrassed. What, Mr. Lin, one rice ball is not enough, right? I think I'd better go get you some more. Quote. He immediately wanted to change the subject. Heart Chunin couldn't help admiring. At that critical moment, this little guy was able to observe so carefully. And after the whole battle, he didn't show that he knew it. Thought he really didn't know. It seems that this little guy is really sharp. But Urahara Kazuki also knew why Lin Yue asked this question. Nothing more than two. Zanpakuto, or saving Rukia Kuchiki. But Urahara Kazuki, who had already figured out a solution, teased Lin Yue pretending to be troublesome. For smart people, Urahara Kazuki has always liked a joke. If this was Kurosaki Ichigo, he wouldn't be joking like that. Just tell Kurosaki Ichigo very bluntly. To save Rukia Kuchiki, you have to become stronger. It's up to finding the name of Kurosaki Ichigo Zanpakuto to regain possession of Zanpakuto. Hey, Mr. Lin, it seems you know it all. But, your Zanpakuto is broken, what can I do? I just don't want to see your friend Mr. Kurosaki die. Who would have thought that it would break your Zanpakuto? It seems that Lin Jun can only become an ordinary person in the future. By the way, does Mr. Lin need to forget the memory of Shinigami? I have many ways here to bring you back to the life of an ordinary person. Quote. Lin Yue rolled his eyes inwardly. Ghost letter Urahara Kazuki is willing to make him an ordinary person. In Urahara Kazuki's opinion, the more candidates who can go to the Soul Society to save Rukia Kuchiki with Kurosaki Ichigo and others, the better. Otherwise, I wouldn't have found Inoue Orihime and Sato Yasutora, who are actually not powerful even though they have awakened the full manifestation technique. But seeing that Urahara Kazuki can still make jokes, Lin Yue knew it. There is a way. He even played along with Urahara Kazuki. Is that so? Hey, that's really impossible. Manager Urahara, then please make me a normal person. I don't want to live a day like this. Quote. Interesting. Urahara Kazuki froze for a moment. Embarrassed, he could only smile and didn't reply. I can't accept this. It would be a big loss if Lin Yue became an ordinary person. When Lin Yue was training in the Urahara store yesterday, Urahara Kazuki was sure that Lin Yue must have great potential. Outside of favoring Kurosaki Ichigo, Lin Yue has also become the candidate he said he is optimistic about. If Lin Yue were to go back and be an ordinary person again, it would be a big loss. Fortunately, Jinda resolved the embarrassment in time. The manager, Mr. Kurosaki, wakes up, quote, while walking towards the room where Kurosaki Ichigo is. Urahara Kazuki was chatting with Lin Yue. Ah, yes, Mr. Lin. Mr. Kurosaki should hope to save Rukia next, right? So, I don't know if you are willing to help me persuade him. Let him calm down temporarily and learn how to fight with me. Quote. When Lin Yue and Urahara Kazuki came to the room where Kurosaki Ichigo was. Just in time to see Tessai Tsukubishi lying on top of Kurosaki Ichigo. Kurosaki Ichigo pushed Tessai Tsukubishi like he was trying to struggle like he was being by some girl. As soon as the two entered the room, Kurosaki Ichigo also happened to kick Tessai Tsukubishi straight out. The sudden force of the body caused severe pain from the wound on Kurosaki Ichigo. He couldn't help holding his wound with his hands. Oh my, this is not acceptable, Mr. Kurosaki. Your wound hasn't fully healed yet. If you move any further, you will die. Quote. Urahara Kazuki couldn't help but said while walking towards Kurosaki Ichigo. A clog hat. Kurosaki Ichigo was taken aback for a moment. Then I had time to look at the surrounding environment. Is this your home? That's right. Urahara Kazuki nodded. Mr. Lin. Kurosaki Ichigo, who was looking around, saw Lin Yue, and his eyes lit up instantly. Rin-kun. I mean, Ikki. What about Rukia? Quote. Lin Yue was silent for a while. Tell me everything that happened last night after Kurosaki Ichigo passed out. Hearing what Rukia Kuchiki asked Lin Yue to convey to him, Kurosaki Ichigo fell silent for a moment. Even his face became a little bleak. The attitude towards Kurosaki Ichigo, Urahara Kazuki, is totally different from Lin Yue. If it's something complicated, Kurosaki Ichigo's temper that hardly wants to think will be misunderstood. He also simply spread out what he wanted to say. Why does Mr. Kurosaki have such an expression? You look like you don't want me to save you. Quote. Kurosaki Ichigo frowned and pursed his lips. He did not answer this question from Urahara Kazuki. Because, he found himself unable to answer this question. He didn't know whether he wanted to be saved or not. After all, Rukia was taken away, and the hedgehog who beat him was not the strongest among those who came to take away Rukia Kuchiki last night. This made Kurosaki Ichigo feel a little frustrated. Correct. And what about Ishida? Is Ishida here too? Quote. Suddenly, he remembered that Ishida Ryu was present last night, so he hurriedly asked. Mr. Ishida. Speaking of Ishida Ryu, Urahara Kazuki couldn't help showing a smile. He was very satisfied with Ishida Ryu's last performance last night. Mr. Ishida has nothing to do, so he went back last night. Ah, yes. Before going back, what did he say to worry about you and Mr. Lin? Quote. How is this possible? Kurosaki Ichigo couldn't believe it. How much Ishida Ryu hated Shinigami, he knew it. Even the last time he and Lin Yue spent a lot of effort to clean up the Manos Grande attracted by him with bait, he didn't say a word of thanks. How can you say what you care about yourself? Urahara Kazuki quickly restrained his expression, making himself more like a bystander. He raised his head slightly, as if recalling what happened last night. I also asked him if he would come to my place to rest. But he said, no need. Says thank you for my kindness, but he's fine. On the contrary, Mr. Kurosaki and Lin Jun are the ones who need to be taken care of. And also, Mr. Ishida said, now the only ones who can defeat your enemies are you and Mr. Lin. He said so. Quote. Kurosaki Ichigo lowered his head slowly. Last night, both he and Ishida Ryu were deeply hit. Only at that moment did they understand what it means to have someone outside someone. And Rukia Kuchiki's words kept churning in Kurosaki Ichigo's mind. Rukia Kuchiki's words are really hurtful. This made Kurosaki Ichigo feel like he had lost his motivation at this moment. Just, me and Ikki. Ah, but so what? I don't even know if it would be an intrusion for her if we went to find Rukia. Because she said she wanted us not to bother her anymore, didn't she? Quote. On Kurosaki Ichigo's face, there was a kind of despair of, more grief than death. Obviously trying so hard to keep her and not let her be taken away, so, is it a kind of disturbance? Well, I suddenly remembered. Rukia seemed to be crying when she said these words. Quote. Sudden. Lin Yue made a gesture of recalling, and said slowly. What? Kurosaki Ichigo stood up quickly, and he looked at Lin Yue seriously. Ikki, you said. Rukia was crying. Exactly. Ichigo. So, Rukia doesn't really want you not to go to her. She is just worried. The enemy last night was very powerful. Ichigo, you are too weak. What if you could find Rukia? Challenge those two people from last night again, and then die. Quote. Lin Yue nodded vigorously. Look serious. Kurosaki Ichigo instantly sat down on the ground. Yeah, it's all because I'm too weak. I haven't even hit that hedgehog head. Let alone another person. But, quote, accepting the fact that he is weak does not mean that Kurosaki Ichigo has to choose to give up. He gritted his teeth, slowly but firmly raised his head to look at Lin Yue. But if this is the case, are we going to give up? Rukia in order not to implicate me, she sneaked out. She also said that because she didn't want us to die. When she said those words, Rukia must have been very sad. Ikki, I must save Rukia. If you are too weak, then find a way to make yourself stronger. If I can't even protect my own friends, then I'm too useless. Quote. Hearing Kurosaki Ichigo's firm statement, Urahara Kazuki and Lin Yue laughed at the same time. Lin Yue directly stretched out his hand and said to Kurosaki Ichigo. Congratulations, Ichigo. I thought you were going to be devastated. So next, we have to work hard. Quote. Urahara Kazuki also instantly put away the fan in his hand. It is good. For the next 10 days, Mr. Kurosaki, please learn how to fight with me. The execution time for death row prisoners is 1 month. The same goes for Kuchiki. Here is the method to open the door of Soul Society. It takes 7 days. That leaves 13 days. There is absolutely no time. Mr. Kurosaki, if you really want to save Miss Kuchiki, then get ready. Thoughts are stronger than iron. During these 10 days, would you like to accompany me to the end? Quote. Isn't this a matter of course? Kurosaki Ichigo's expression became very serious. He is ready. Get ready for any difficult training session. Lin Yue breathed a sigh of relief. How to say that Kurosaki Ichigo was defeated by Aburai Renji, and I haven't seen Byakuya Kuchiki who has a huge gap with him. Before Kurosaki Ichigo agreed to come down, Lin Yue was really afraid that Kurosaki Ichigo would not have enough motivation to become stronger. Unexpectedly, with his participation, Kurosaki Ichigo has become more motivated. Moreover, looking at his expression, it is clear that compared to the same period in the anime he saw in his previous life, he is more eager to become stronger. It was only now that he completely let go of his heart. In the corner of the room, the black cat Yoruichi was watching Lin Yue and Kurosaki Ichigo intently. I was prepared in my heart, but I couldn't start training so quickly. Kurosaki Ichigo accepts the soul as a Shinigami. In this world, he is still a student in school. Had lunch in the Urahara shop. Kurosaki Ichigo went back to school. Fortunately, there is only one class in the afternoon. It will be summer vacation starting tomorrow. Kurosaki Ichigo went back to school, and more often than not, he had to say goodbye to his friends. This time, he had the idea that he might not be able to come back. As for Lin Yue, after leaving the Urahara store, headed home. Classes are really meaningless to him. Anyway, the grades are so good, the teacher generally doesn't care about him. And he doesn't have to say goodbye to his friends like Kurosaki Ichigo did. After coming to this world and confirming that this world is the Shinigami world, Lin Yue is consciously reducing his presence. This left him with very few friends at school. The only one who is slightly familiar is Arasawa Tatsuki. But not to that level of familiarity. Just go home and make some adjustments. Wait till you get home. After confirming that there was no one around, Lin Yue lay on the bed and slowly closed his eyes. In consciousness, he turned on the system. Lin Yue. Power, 630. Spirit, 375. Physique, 697. Agility, 422. Spiritia, 1040. Special, swordsmanship +4, white hits +1, Keto +1, power of pain +8, high-speed regeneration +1, power of destroyer +2. This is the final attribute after picking up the attribute that Kurosaki Ichigo dropped after being defeated, and the attribute that Aburai Renji dropped after being defeated, and after training with Urahara before. Among them, Kurosaki Ichigo provides a large number of spirit seed properties. Because he couldn't control his own spirit sun, he always let the spirit power dissipate. This made Lin Yue catch a loophole. However, the attributes picked up after defeating Aburai Renji are not many. On the one hand, Aburai Renji's situation was far from dire at the time. On the other hand, it is also because Aburai Renji's own attributes are not very high. He was able to become the vice-captain of the 6th team, largely because Byakuya Kuchiki looked at Rukia Kuchiki's face. In other teams, there is no such weak vice-captain. However, Aburai Renji gave Lin Yue a lot of surprises in terms of special attributes. Aburai Renji's swordsmanship, which he is best at, white hits, which he is not very good at, and Keto, which he is not very good at, all drop attributes for Lin Yue. It's a pity to say. The reason is that Lin Yue just picked up the Keto attribute, but he doesn't really use Keto. In other words, he understood a small part of the way the psychic energy flows in the body when using the Keto. But I still don't know how to use it. Unless you continue to improve Keto attributes, and really learn or pick up some kind of Keto. Breathe a sigh of relief. Anyway, the current attributes have surpassed the lowest Jillian. I just don't know how far it is from Ijuka's. According to the original anime plot, in Gotei 13th Division, the top-ranked seats are all capable of defeating Ijuka's. Let's not talk about it after the restriction is lifted. The performance in the early stage alone can prove why Soul Society can suppress Hueco Mundo for so many years. Hueco Mundo, the real impact on Soul Society was after Arankar appeared. Lie in bed and rest for a while. I also found some food to supplement the energy needed by the body. Lin Yue just lay down on the bed and fell asleep. According to the appointment time with Urahara Kazuki, formal training will start tomorrow. Although this will change the time to save Rukia Kuchiki from 13 days to 12 days after entering the Soul Society. But injuries to Lin Yue and Kurosaki Ichigo prevented them from starting training immediately. Might as well take a day off. Relying on Urahara's special medicine, wait until you recover before training. It can also avoid getting twice the result with half the effort caused by carrying the practice. The next day, Lin Yue came to the door of Urahara's store early. Kurosaki Ichigo, who had already bid farewell to his friends and family, came here without staying in bed. Urahara Kazuki slowly opened the door. Looking at Lin Yue and Kurosaki Ichigo outside the door, he narrowed his eyes and laughed. He made a slightly exaggerated expression of surprise, as if he had just discovered that the two had arrived. Oh my god, Mr. Kurosaki and Lin Jun came very early. Then come with me. Quote, passing through the Urahara store, several people quickly came to a secret door. This secret door leads to a large empty area under the Urahara store. Last time, when Lin Yue trained here, it was in this area. It's just that the last training was more about Lin Yue watching the battle between Sumiyu and Hanakari Jinda to pick up attributes. Speaking up, the attributes of Hanakari Jinda and Sumiyu Rain are indeed not very high. The attributes dropped by the two of them are also very few. Even a full day of fighting gave Lin Yue an attribute close to that dropped by Abarai Renji. Both of these two have strength close to that of Manos Grande, and they can easily eliminate groups of hollows. Largely, thanks to the props Urahara Kazuki gave them. As for itself, it is still able to stand up to ordinary Shinigami at the moment, but as time goes by, it will gradually fail to keep up. Besides, Lin Yue also found that Subiya Rain, who is often bullied by Hanakari Jinda, has much higher attributes than Hanakari Jinda. It's just the character of Sumiya Rain that made her the target of being bullied. Ah, what is this? Under this store, there is still such a big hole. Quote, one came to the underground training ground. Urahara Kazuki yelled exaggeratedly. Judging by his tone of voice and the expression on his face, he is clearly imitating Kurosaki Ichigo. You are so noisy. Even if you don't yell for me, I'm just as surprised. Quote, Kurosaki Ichigo admitted his surprise quite decisively. Hey, Urahara Kazuki smiled smugly. He didn't just want to tease Kurosaki Ichigo, but to calm Kurosaki Ichigo's emotions. Immediately afterwards, he turned his head to look at Lin Yue. Jun Lin should be very familiar with this place. Lin Yue nodded with a smile. It's okay, it's the second time. Can it be regarded as an acquaintance? Quote, then, have you found anything different? Urahara Kazuki had a somewhat smug smile on his face. Hey, hurry up and start your so-called special training. Quote, Kurosaki Ichigo couldn't wait. He interrupted the conversation between Lin Yue and Urahara Kazuki directly, urging. Then as you wish. Urahara Kazuki also felt that what he wanted to say should be expressed directly in a while, so he simply stopped continuing. While answering Kurosaki Ichigo, he waved the crutch in his hand. The crutches had already been taken back from Ishida Ryu when he brought Lin Yue and Kurosaki Ichigo to the Urahara store last time. Boom, boom, the head of the cane quickly poked Kurosaki Ichigo and Lin Yue's foreheads. The souls of the two of them were instantly beaten out. It's just that the state of the two is completely different at this time. Lin Yue was still wearing that dead bully outfit. It's just that I don't have Shikai's Zanpakuto sealed state in my hand, and there is only one handle left at this time. Kurosaki Ichigo, on the other hand, is wearing exactly the same clothes as his normal human form. There is a long chain on the chest. As soon as Lin Yue's soul came out, it directly caught his body. But Kurosaki Ichigo flew out in an instant. Hateful. Why are you attacking me suddenly? Quote, Kurosaki Ichigo couldn't help but screamed. Just finished. He found himself having difficulty breathing. How is this going? While directing Tessai Tsukubishi to preserve the bodies of Lin Yue and Kurosaki Ichigo, Urahara Kazuki looked at Lin Yue aside, but what he said was to Kurosaki Ichigo. Mr. Kurosaki, you should have found out, right? What? You have been destroyed by Byakuya Kuchiki linking the psoriasis which is the source of spiritual power generation and the knot which is the thruster. In other words, the current you are just an ordinary soul without spiritual power. As for Lin Jun, although Zanpakuto is broken, but he still has Shinigami abilities after all. So, there's nothing to talk about without restoring your spiritual power first. Quote, Kurosaki Ichigo glanced at Lin Yue, who was wearing a deadly costume. He looked at the chains on his chest again. Forcibly resisting the occasional sensation caused by the general summoning soul coming out of the body, he asked loudly. So, what should I do? Yes, what should I do? Quote, Urahara Kazuki covered his chin with a fan, but the curved part of the fan still revealed the smile at the corner of his mouth. I'd rather do it than say it. So, fight her. Quote. Talking. Sumuya Rain appeared behind Kurosaki Ichigo. She has put on the gloves and the forehead protector. Another set of protective gear was thrown to Kurosaki Ichigo. What? Shot on a child? How can I do this? Quote. Kurosaki Ichigo couldn't help venting his dissatisfaction loudly. But Urahara Kazuki no longer cares about him. Here, but there is another person. Urahara Kazuki turned to look at Lin Yue, the smile on his face gradually subsided. Lin-jun, are you ready? It is not easy to restore the Zanpakuto, and the Zanpakuto that was broken after Shikai. Quote. Is talking. Kurosaki Ichigo behind him has been directly punched out by Sumuya Rain. It wasn't until this time that the Kurosaki family realized that if they didn't resist or run away, they might die. The place where he was sent flying was right next to Lin Yue. The moment he just stopped rolling, a voice suddenly rang in Lin Yue's ear. Strength plus 10, Dexterity plus 10, Spirit plus 10, Constitution plus 20, Special, Power of Pain plus 2, Power of Destroyer plus 1. Lin Yue froze for a moment. He didn't expect that this would also be Kurosaki Ichigo's defeat. Compared to Kurosaki Ichigo, who was Shinigami before, Lin Yue didn't pick up the Spirit Seed attribute from him this time. The Power of Pain and the Power of the Destroyer have also been reduced by half. It seems that it should be because his soul was destroyed, which led to the silence of the spirit in the body, and at the same time, the power of pain and the village of the Quincy that had gradually become active gradually became silent. However, the power of pain in these 2 points just rightly gave Lin Yue a qualification. Hollow qualifications. The attribute of power of pain has reached 10 points. Quickly returning to his senses, Lin Yue nodded solemnly. Urahara was out of tune. He knew it very well. The effect of special training is bound to have. But the process of this special training may not be very good. Well, take it easy. Actually nothing. Come on, Mr. Lin, you stand here. Don't interfere with Mr. Kurosaki's special training. Quote. Seeing the expression on Lin Yue's face, Urahara Kazuki waved his fan lightly, as if joking about family matters, which relieved Lin Yue's emotions. Let Lin Yue stand on a boulder beside him. The moment Lin Yue stood up, Urahara Kazuki suddenly yelled. What? I suddenly remembered. Quote. What? The moment Lin Yue relaxed slightly, Urahara Kazuki made a move. He directly used spiritual power to smash the stone under Lin Yue's feet. Under the stone, there is no ground, but a dungeon. In the dungeon, a bound Shujung was forcibly controlled to grow its mouth. The place where Lin Yue fell was in Shu's mouth. Gulu. It's just that the moment Lin Yue didn't react, he fell into Shu's mouth. And the devices that controlled Shu's mouth to open suddenly shattered. Shu, shut his mouth. And Lin Yue has already been swallowed into the stomach. At this moment, Urahara Kazuki continued with what he hadn't finished. I actually forgot just now that there is a bird waiting to be fed under that rock. Boom. At this moment, Kurosaki Ichigo was suddenly blown away by Sumuya Yure's punch. Flying far away, he looked at Urahara Kazuki with a ferocious face while Sumuya Rain hadn't caught up. He heard everything Urahara Kazuki said just now. Hey, Clog Hat, what the hell are you trying to do? You actually sent Iki directly to Shu's mouth. Are you going to kill him? Quote. Urahara Kazuki lowered his head slightly. The expression on the face was somewhat sinister in the shadow of the hat. Well, it is also possible. Still, Mr. Kurosaki, take care of yourself first. Otherwise, you will die like Lin Jun. Quote. Hear this. Kurosaki Ichigo could only grit his teeth. He glanced at the place where Lin Yue fell from a distance. My heart is full of anger. The Shinigami eaten by Shu will have nothing left. Exactly. Sumuya Rain's attack came again. Kurosaki Ichigo had no choice but to cheer up and concentrate on coping. Just this time, he didn't run away. Instead, he turned his head to look at Sumuya Rain. The moment Sugaya Rain punched, he turned sideways to avoid Sugaya Rain's attack. With a backhand, he punched out his fist full of anger. Boom! A violent explosion occurred at the base of a boulder. In just a few seconds, Kurosaki Ichigo threw a counterpunch at Uzumakiya. But the various attributes of Sumuya Amami are not comparable to Kurosaki Ichigo, who is just an ordinary soul at this time. Of course, Kurosaki Ichigo's physical fitness is basically the same as that of Sumuya Rain. But in terms of spirit sons, Sumuya Rain far surpassed Kurosaki Ichigo at this time. Relying on Reiko's feedback to the body, Sumuya Yume quickly dodged the punch, and then used his short and light stature to relay on the back of Kurosaki Ichigo's hand. With a kickback, Kurosaki Ichigo was kicked hard. Kurosaki Ichigo hit the boulder, kicking up a cloud of dust. Seeing this scene, Suzuya Rain's expression instantly changed to apologetic. She is always so careful. Even the counterattack just now was not intentional, it was just an instinctive combat reaction to the attack. The fog dissipated. Fortunately, Kurosaki Ichigo was not seriously injured. Behind him, Tessai Tsukubishi cushioned Kurosaki Ichigo with his own body and took most of the impact. But at this time, Kurosaki Ichigo has no mind to think about other things. He rushed directly in front of Urahara Kazuki and squeezed Urahara Kazuki's neckline tightly. "What the hell are you trying to do? Ikihi, I was sent to Shu's mouth by you." Quote. Imaginary. Whether it's Manos Grande, or ordinary virtual worth mentioning. All imaginary. The easiest solution has always been the masks on their faces. As for Shu's body, it is full of pain, resentment and unwillingness. This pain, resentment, and unwillingness can affect the will of Shinigami, who is much stronger than Shu himself. A Shinigami that can take out Manos Grande, if it goes into the mouth of a void, might not even come out. That's why, back then, Kurosaki Ichigo's mother would have died in the hands of a Shu. You know, Kurosaki Ichigo's mother, Kurosaki Masaki, is a Quincy master with the strength of the captain of the 13th Guards. And now, Lin Yue was actually sent into Shu's mouth. And, it was sent in by Urahara Kazuki on his own initiative. Still in front of Kurosaki Ichigo. This made Kurosaki Ichigo even tremble with anger. Urahara Kazuki put away the fan and patted his left hand lightly, making an encouraging gesture. "First of all, congratulations, Mr. Kurosaki. Quiz 1 you have passed. As for Lin Jun, he has his own special training. And, it's impolite to interrupt someone." Quote. Seeing that Kurosaki Ichigo was a little unconvinced and wanted to argue, Urahara Kazuki quickly interrupted him. Then he tapped his head lightly twice with a fan, and said slowly. "This test 1 is not for you to beat Xiao Yu. Do you no longer feel short of breath? This test is a one-strike decision. It depends on whether you can avoid the blow that is about to hit. Spirit power is most likely to increase when the soul is on the verge of disappearing. You were able to escape Xiao Yu's fist, which means that spiritual power has begun to reappear in your body. Congratulations. The pouch has been repaired. Next, is the knot." Quote. Talking. Tessai Tsukubishi, who appeared suddenly, cut off the iron chain on Kurosaki Ichigo's chest with an axe in his hand. What? Kurosaki Ichigo fell to the ground in an instant like a fish out of water. "Clog hat, what the hell are you trying to do? First Iki, then me. If you want to kill us, you don't need to do it so complicated." Quote. After all, Kurosaki Ichigo had been stationed in Shinigami for a while. Along with Rukia Kuchiki also solved quite a few things about Hollow and the Earth Binders that haven't turned into Hollow yet. He knew very well what it meant when the chain on his chest was broken. There was an eerie smile on Urahara Kazuki's mouth. "Of course, Mr. Kurosaki, this is all for special training." Correct. After the chain of cause and effect is cut off, the soul cannot return to the body, and can only wait for death. Also, there is one more thing I want to say by the way. The erosion of the lock will gradually start from the cut surface of the lock. Then when it reaches the chest, a hole will appear in your chest, and it will become empty. Don't you want to know why Lin Jun was sent to Shu's mouth? Because, he is facing the same thing as you. If you don't want to be virtual, try to make yourself a Shinigami. Quote. Finished. Urahara Kazuki waved his finger. The ground under Kurosaki Ichigo also instantly turned into a big hole. Tessai Tsukubishi found a corner and sat down after falling to the bottom of the cave with Kurosaki Ichigo. "Mr. Kurosaki, the store manager said that if you become Shu, I will kill you." Shop manager, why are the two caves different ways to remove camouflage? Sumuya Amami looked at the big hole in front of him and couldn't help asking Urahara Kazuki. As the excavator of these two caves, she already has some feelings for these two caves. Ah, this one. Urahara Kazuki's face returned to the unscrupulous look. Of course, for a surprise for Mr. Kurosaki and Mr. Lin. If they were all released in the same way, they wouldn't be surprised. Quote. Finished. Urahara Kazuki took another look at the cave, turned around and walked in the direction of Lin Yui's cave. Let's go. Tessai will be watching here. We should also go and see if Mr. Lin is dead or not. Quote. Comma. When Lin Yue fell into Shu's mouth, he really didn't react. Originally, in his vision, it should be like Kurosaki Ichigo's special training later, and countless strange-looking Zanpakuto appeared to let him find his own. But in the end, a dungeon was directly summoned and sent to Shu's mouth. Lin Yue doesn't know if a Shinigami got into Shu's mouth and got out alive. But, at least for now, he is still alive in Shu's stomach. It's just that it doesn't feel good. To be precise, start by falling into Shu's mouth. Lin Yue could clearly feel that a negative spirit from the void was constantly eroding him. Those spirit seeds full of pain, resentment, like ants that penetrate all holes, can always find the gap in Lin Yui's spirit seed shield released outside the body, touch his skin, and leave a hole on Lin Yui's skin. The next deep mark of corrosion. Gradually, he himself didn't know how long it had passed. There is no intact skin on Lin Yui's body. After being corroded, the skin, blood, and flesh were all transformed into a dark, sticky pus. Under the pus, there seemed to be something that was about to come out. On his neck, an irregular round hole began to appear. If the hole is fully formed, he will become a void. But, what surprised Lin Yue was, from the moment he entered this empty mouth, the system has been flashing reminders. Get +1 from foreign spirits, +1 from foreign pain. Get +1 from foreign spirits, +1 from foreign pain. Lin Yue has never been so grateful for the pain as he is now. It was the existence of pain that kept him from passing out. The still sober consciousness has been fighting against the power from the void. Obviously he can feel it. His own strength is much stronger than this one. But there is a feeling of powerlessness. Vomit. Sudden, a strong sense of vomiting welled up in Lin Yui's heart. Next second, from his eye sockets and mouth, a stream of white mucus spewed out. The slime seemed to want to stick to Lin Yui's face. Lin Yue is very clear that if the mucus solidifies on the face, it will become a virtual mask. Urahara Kazuki threw the core of the apple he had just eaten straight to the ground. The sloppiness on his face began to subside slowly. 70 hours have passed. On the ground in front of him, quite a few apple cores had oxidized and turned yellow for too long. He stood up slowly, like an old farmer waiting to harvest. There was anticipation in his eyes, but also some subtle worries. The manager, Kurosaki Ichigo's chain erosion is over. He seems to be starting to fade away. Do you want to save him? Quote. Urahara Kazuki glanced at Kurosaki Ichigo, who was struggling to resist becoming hollow at the bottom of the cave, and slowly shook his head. Generally, when you are about to degenerate into a void, the spirit will explode and reorganize at first. But his order is very disordered. The body remains intact. The first step begins with the appearance of the mask. It means he is resisting. The possibility of him turning back into a Shinigami still exists. Let's take another look. And, I am more worried about Mr. Lin than Mr. Kurosaki. Quote. Talking. Urahara Kazuki turned his head to look at the dungeon behind him that had been silent for a long time. At the very beginning, the void in the dungeon will also yell out because of hunger. But now, the ghost in the dungeon has not moved for a long time. This made Urahara Kazuki feel worried in Chunin's heart. Kurosaki Ichigo's mother had already been infected with the virus when Kurosaki Ichigo was born. So in Kurosaki Ichigo's body, there is virtual power. This makes Kurosaki Ichigo somewhat resistant to hollow. But Lin Yue, in Urahara Kazuki's heart, the confidence in Lin Yue is actually far less than that of Kurosaki Ichigo. However, if you want to restore Zanpakuto, there is no other way. At least, Urahara Kazuki can't do it any other way. Shinigami's Zanpakuto is not completely transformed from the sealed state. The sealed state is nothing more than a prop that induces Zanpakuto to materialize more easily. As early as thousands of years ago, few Shinigami who could have Zanpakuto relied on the sealed state. Their Zanpakuto is more about self-awakening. Zanpakuto's ability is essentially a heart power. Just like what Urahara Kazuki said before, the power of thought is stronger than iron. But after such a long time without any response, Urahara Kazuki inevitably became suspicious. Could it be that? Is it really too hasty? Do not. Impossible. According to Lin Jun's talent, he should be able to break through this difficulty, find his own strength, and thus reawaken Zanpakuto. I comforted myself in my heart. After all, Urahara Kazuki gradually lost confidence in Lin Yui's ability to come out of the virtual body intact. Looking at the quiet dungeon, he couldn't help murmuring softly. Lin Jun, if you really become Shu, I will kill you. Soul Society, Jingling Court. Prison. How so? Abarai Renji was a little desperate. He sat outside the prison, staring blankly at Rukia Kuchiki in the prison with a dull expression. Some are unacceptable. Bringing Rukia Kuchiki back from this world, Abarai Renji believes that the Kuchiki family will definitely keep Rukia Kuchiki. But just before, Byakuya Kuchiki came to announce a news that made him completely desperate. First-degree felony. Rukia Kuchiki will be executed as a death row inmate at Mao execution ground in 25 days. This is the final decision of the Soul Society. Quote, Why is this so? Quote, the despair in Abarai Renji's heart was surging like a tide. If he had known earlier, Rukia Kuchiki would have been sentenced to death after returning to Soul Society that day. Should have shot Byakuya Kuchiki that day. Even if you can't defeat Byakuya Kuchiki, at least try to keep Rukia Kuchiki alive. Can now. Rukia Kuchiki is about to be executed. And the murderer who captured her back was Abarai Renji himself. Such a reality made Abarai Renji unacceptable. Turns out he was wrong. He thought it would be good for Rukia Kuchiki to go back to Soul Society. Thinking that as long as Rukia Kuchiki gets rid of those human beings in this world, she can continue to be the eldest lady of her Kuchiki family. But why? It turned out to be a punishment. Rukia Kuchiki in the prison did not show any expression changes from the beginning. She is like a cold stone. No matter what the ending is, it can no longer shake her heart. However, there was a bit of pity in the eyes looking at Abarai Renji. Decades-old friends. It was you who came to see me off on the road. Your heart must be very complicated, right? Abarai Renji is going crazy. His eyes were wide open, but the pupils in his eyes were tightly shrunk into a small dot. Rukia, why does Captain Kuchiki ignore you? I do not believe. How could you die? Quote, but Rukia Kuchiki did not give any response to Abarai Renji. But Abarai Renji didn't need a response either. He was just venting the mania in his heart. But sadly found that there was nothing he could do about this result. Even this loud venting is like a weak person's disguise. Hateful. Abarai Renji punched the jail bars hard. His face was full of remorse. Rukia, secretly admiring Rukia for so many years, today she became the culprit who sent Rukia to die. The emotions in my heart are like a raging fire cooking oil, and all kinds of tastes come to my heart. Especially when Abarai Renji saw the numb expression on Rukia Kuchiki's face, his heart throbbed. Even if he understands, as a Shinigami, this emotion is the most useless and should be discarded. But, how can it be so simple? Urahara store ground floor. Kurosaki Ichigo said the screams of pain that came out had gradually approached the screams of hollow. The bakudo that bound him also began to break apart at this time. Going to become virtual. Hanakari Jinda couldn't help but took 2 steps back, still whispering to Urahara Kazuki beside him. I do not know. Urahara Kazuki, who was about to answer, felt that behind him, a reiatsu that was bigger than Kurosaki Ichigo's body surged out instantly. He turned his head quickly, looking at the virtual dungeon that pretended to have eaten Lin Yue. A black and red beam of light emerged from the top of the dungeon. It is the color of Shu Link C. The manager. Shouldn't. Could it be that both of them have become virtual? Quote. Urahara Kazuki didn't speak, just watched silently. But his hand, which had already clenched the cane where Zanpakuto was hidden, showed that his heart was not so peaceful. I hope not. Xiaoyu, Prepare for rescue measures. Quote. Yes, manager, 2 hours ago. The hole in Lin Yui's neck has become more rounded. The black matter attached to his body began to throb. The white mucus originally spewed from the eye sockets and mouth gradually began to solidify on his face, forming a hideous mask. At the same time, Lin Yui's power of pain attribute has also reached a very high level. Lin Yue, power, 640. Spirit, 385. Physique, 717. Agility, 432. Spiritia, 1040. Special, swordsmanship +4, white hits +1, keto +1, power of pain +24, high-speed regeneration +2, power of destroyer +3. 10 points of pain power touched Hollow's qualifications. Now the 24 painful powers made Lin Yue clearly feel that the power from the void in his body has become a climate. As for the increased high-speed regeneration, it suddenly and automatically increased with the increase in the power of pain. It was this discovery that reminded Lin Yue. In addition to relying on the system, relying on one's own exercise or becoming stronger can also drive attribute changes. It's just that in the past, he didn't have any kind of strength that could drive other attributes to improve. This led to Lin Yue not discovering this until today. The increase in the power of pain is accompanied by pain, whether physically or mentally. During this period of time, Lin Yue seemed to experience the feeling of slowly sinking into the bottom of the sea. Alone, empty, dark, hopeless. Every muscle in the body hurts like being pricked by thousands of needles. He does not know, is he mentally tough, or is he able to survive with the help of the system? Finally, it's sinking. Boom. Lin Yue felt as if he had touched a hard slate with his back. A voice suddenly sounded in his ear. Icky, icky. Wake up. Lin Yue slowly opened his eyes. In front of him was a humanoid creature wrapped in white bones. Not even a face. I don't know how he saw the front. You finally woke up. Lin Yue frowned slightly. This voice is exactly the same as his voice. That is. This humanoid is, himself. Exactly. I am you. Be real you. That you who used to shrink at home, dare not go out, dare not face the outside world. Quote. Lin Yue was in a daze. As himself, he naturally knew what this humanoid creature was talking about. That is the past that Lin Yue doesn't want to face. It is what he said he suffered before crossing. School bullying, workplace bullying. His ordinary but extraordinary life seemed to be cursed. No matter what you do, the end result is not so smooth. Yeah, you remembered. Bai Yue nodded slowly. That's why I have these things on my body to protect myself. Bai Yue tapped the white shell on his body lightly. The casing makes a metallic, dang-dang, sound between knocks. Lin Yue closed his eyes. After calming down, he slowly opened his eyes. So what? Bai Yue gradually began to float up. He was just suspended in the air. Do not. It's in the deep sea. So, do you feel it? This feeling of suffocation. What do you think should be done? Quote. Bai Yue's voice just fell. Lin Yue felt the sudden pressure of the surrounding sea water. And he was able to breathe, too. But, in this deep sea, where is there oxygen for him to breathe? Asphyxia. His face began to turn blue gradually. But even so, Lin Yue still maintained his original posture. He looked at Bai Yue hard, and actually, laughed. I understand. You understood. Understood. Lin Yue suddenly couldn't feel the suffocation anymore. He nodded slightly. In his eyes, he had already begun to firm up. I used to be running away. Run away from this past. So, in the 2 years since I came to this world, I haven't made a serious friend. However, seriously think about my past. That past. In the final analysis, it is nothing more than self-restraint. It is because of the so-called conscience that we have learned to live like tamed domestic animals in society. As long as you can live, nothing is intolerable. Therefore, kind people are always bullied by those who are not kind enough. But in this world now, I cannot guarantee that I am alive. Quote. Cracks began to appear on Bai Yue's body. But he still stared at Lin Yue as if he didn't see it. So, now, there seemed to be light in Lin Yue's eyes. Now, smash it. Quote. Break what? Shatter the cowardice of the past time. People always have to look forward. Coming to such a wonderful world, of course we can't live a mediocre life. There is nothing that can bind me. As long as I maintain my bottom line, other things are not so important. Quote. There are more and more cracks on Bai Yiwei's body. So, do you still need it? As he said that, Bai Yiwei actually took out a knife handle. It was Lin Yiwei's Zanpakuto with only the handle left. Do not. To be exact, it was built by Ermeiwu Wangyu, and after being claimed by Miba Tianijun, it was transferred to the sealed state in the hands of Lin Yiwei. Lin Yiwei smiled lightly. He looked at the sealed state in Bai Yiwei's hand, and shook his head lightly. No need. Why, as a Shinigami, don't you need Zanpakuto? Quote. Bai Yiwei asked very quickly. Pieces of white carapace also began to fall off his body, revealing the figure inside. Lin Yiwei shook his head and nodded again. Now I, of course, need Zanpakuto. It's just that what I no longer need is someone else's sealed state. Quote. Talking. Lin Yiwei suddenly grabbed a knife handle from the void in front of him. With the retraction of his arms, actually pulled out a Zanpakuto directly. It's just that the appearance of this Zanpakuto is not an ordinary sealed state, nor is it the shield and dagger of Zanpakuto Fanghua. It's an unpretentious barrier knife. It's just that on the side of the barrier knife, there is a pattern of flower bones carved. Pursue all the beauty in beauty, and cultivate a chaste body after hundreds of kalpas. This is the real youth. Crack, click, wow. The white carapace on Bai Yiwei's body was completely broken. Walking from inside was also Lin Yiwei. The two Lin Yiwei look exactly the same. They looked at each other and smiled. He actually walked towards the other party. The two bodies approached, but did not touch, instead they merged directly. Shua. In the dungeon, Lin Yiwei, who had been closing his eyes silently resisting Shu's erosion, suddenly opened them. In the scarlet eyes, a black-red beam of light bloomed. Shu, who had eaten him into his stomach, turned into spirit particles and dissipated between heaven and earth before he knew when. Lin Yiwei's entire upper body was covered with a layer of white bone armor. The most frightening thing is the devil-like mask on his face. The black scars were sprinkled on the pale mask like dots of ink. Amidst the icy ferocity, one can still see a morbid beauty after looking at it for a long time. Base. Lin Yiwei reached out and swiped lightly with the handle of the Zanpakuto knife in his hand. The fence on the top of the dungeon, which was originally used to block Shu, shattered in an instant. He rushed up. Just at this time, Kurosaki Ichigo also finally found his Zanpakuto in his heart, and rushed up from that pit. With a snap, Urahara Kazuki closed the fan in his hand. Hold the crutch with one hand, and keep the other hand in a motion where you can touch the crutch at any time. A cane, in his posture, looked like a knife, waiting to strike. Lin Yiwei and Kurosaki Ichigo stood on the ground, one on the left and one on the right. Right in the middle is Urahara Kazuki et al. Urahara hid behind Urahara Kazuki in fear. Deadly outfit. With a mask. Shop manager. Did the two of them become empty? Quote. Hanakari Jinda couldn't help being a little scared too. Whether it's Kurosaki Ichigo or Lin Yiwei, they all have Zuna's iconic mask on their faces at this time. From them, a terrifying sense of oppression rushed to their faces. Especially the eyes of the two of them seemed to be scarlet against the backdrop of their masks. It's hard not to make Hanakari Jinda wonder if both of them have become virtual. Even, Hanakari Jinda has already started to think about how he can escape quickly if the two of them go crazy and want to do something. He knows, whether it is Kurosaki Ichigo or Lin Yiwei, if they really become Shu, their strength will only become stronger. Maybe to the extent of Jillian is also unknown. And he has the strength to beat Shu with that baseball bat, but facing Jillian, it's pure food delivery. Is talking. But Kurosaki Ichigo and Lin Yiwei suddenly looked at each other. False. Kurosaki Ichigo looked at the unknown creature whose body was half covered by a mask. Seeing the familiar deadly domineering outfit on him, a look of regret flashed in his eyes. Feel sorry, Ikki. It turned you into a ghost. Don't worry, I will avenge you. But before that, let me save you. Quote. Saying this, Kurosaki Ichigo drew Zanpakuto's hilt from behind him. In his hand is still the severed Zanpakuto. But it doesn't affect anything. Kurosaki Ichigo didn't have much research on knife skills. For him now, the most important thing is Shinigami's ability. Even Zanpakuto that has been broken does not affect his use. Shouted to Lin Yue. Kurosaki Ichigo rushed forward holding the half Zanpakuto directly. What? While sprinting, he was still yelling his signature shout. On the other side, Lin Yue, when he came out of the dungeon, his mentality had changed drastically compared to before. When looking at the world originally, he will always feel a little detached and false. But now, he has truly recognized the world. And I want to leave some marks about myself in this world. Whether it is a legend or notoriety, something must be left behind. Even this barren space, with only loess and rocks, is so vivid in his eyes. In addition, he also found that his ability to perceive spirits has been greatly improved. If you concentrate, you can even see the Lingxi condensed into Lingluo in the air. That's right, not simply perceiving, but seeing. He has not formally felt the beauty of this world. He heard what Kurosaki Ichigo on the opposite side was saying, and then rushed towards him with an attacking posture. Lin Yue knew that Kurosaki Ichigo was successful. So after seeing Kurosaki Ichigo's actions, he didn't wonder if Kurosaki Ichigo had become virtual like Hanakari Jinda did. Just feeling a little surprised. What happened? Quote. Just when he wanted to ask. Kurosaki Ichigo, who charged with all his strength, was already in front of him. On Lin Yui's face under the mask, his eyebrows were raised slightly. All right, it seems that you have to win to ask. Quote. With a word to himself, Lin Yue drew his sword in an instant. Base. When. The half Zanpakuto holds the Zanpakuto in the hands of Kurosaki Ichigo. The spiritual seeds on the two were in turmoil. Under the impact, Reiatsu continuously erupted towards the rear. What? It really deserves to be a Kurosaki hang. In such a short period of time, his strength has improved so much. Quote. Feeling the impact on his wrist, Lin Yue couldn't help but praise in his heart. Urahara Kazuki looked up suddenly. He looked seriously at Lin Yue and Kurosaki Ichigo who were fighting, with a flash of surprise in his eyes. Oh my god, it seems that both of them have become a lot stronger. But, he frowned imperceptibly, and his words became more and more light. It seems that the moment you take your mouth off, it will turn into a gust of breeze and dissipate in the air. But Mr. Lin's Zanpakuto, why does it feel a bit out of place with him? Moreover, Lin Jun's spiritual power seemed to have changed. How strange. Quote. The store manager, Tessai Tsukubishi quietly returned to Urahara Kazuki's side. Mr. Kurosaki's spirit son is Shinigami's spirit son. He must have succeeded, right? It should be like this. Urahara Kazuki nodded. Tessai Tsukubishi has followed him for many years, and Tessai Tsukubishi naturally knows some things. Therefore, Urahara Kazuki has no secrets about Tessai Tsukubishi. However, Mr. Kurosaki will be able to succeed, which I have already thought about. But Mr. Lin, it smells bad, it's getting a little weird. It seems like Shinigami, but it tastes different from his previous taste. Mr. Tessai, have you ever seen this happen? Or maybe it was because I was too anxious. Shouldn't he be allowed to touch Hollow's field so early? Quote. Tessai Tsukubishi followed Urahara Kazuki's gaze. After a long silence, he shook his head. I have never encountered such a situation. Really? Then let's keep reading. Quote. Urahara Kazuki was not surprised either. He lightly squeezed the crutch in his hand. For some reason, he actually felt a little excited. Both Kurosaki Ichigo and Lin Yui's Zanpakuto are broken. The difference is, the Zanpakuto held by Kurosaki Ichigo is only a short section near the handle, but the blade is huge. As for the Zanpakuto in Lin Yui's hand, it was narrow and thin, and the blade was only broken in half, and half of its length remained. Even judging from the amount of spiritual power that can be carried and used in this Zanpakuto, the two Zanpakuto should be about the same. But 5 seconds later Lin Yue caught Kurosaki Ichigo's Zanpakuto with a broken Zanpakuto in his hand. The broken Zanpakuto in his hand actually broke again directly. Only a small section of the blade remains. Take advantage of this opportunity. Kurosaki Ichigo's fighting instincts allowed him to continue the attack without hesitation. In the blink of an eye, he discovered this chance. Zanpakuto slashed down heavily. When, only a short section of Zanpakuto cut on the white bone armor attached to Lin Yui's upper body, but it made a crisp sound. Kurosaki Ichigo's pupils constricted for a moment. So, so hard. With this attack, Kurosaki Ichigo was sure that he did not break the defense. But in the next second, cracks appeared on the white bone armor. Crack, crack, boom, the white bone armor began to fall off Lin Yui's body slowly. But Lin Yue didn't stop. Taking advantage of the shock in Kurosaki Ichigo's heart, he exerted force on his hand. Although the Zanpakuto in hand can no longer be used. But the white hits with only a little attribute point also gave Lin Yue a certain combat awareness for melee attacks. Boom! A punch hit Kurosaki Ichigo directly in the chest, sending Kurosaki Ichigo flying. Ah! Kurosaki Ichigo just felt like he was suffocating. But the reaction from his body was far less than the surprise in his heart. Punch! Is it Iki's strength at this time? And with Lin Yui's movements, the bone armor on his body fell faster and faster. Finally, Lin Yue, who came out of the bone armor, heard the system prompt sound in his ears, and raised his hand with a smile on his face to say hello. Hi, picking up spirit seeds +20, strength +1, agility +1, physique +1, spirit +1, special, power of pain +1. Glancing at the system prompt, Lin Yue raised his eyebrows secretly. The attributes dropped from Kurosaki Ichigo this time are a bit too few. And it doesn't even have the attribute of the power of quenching master. But Lin Yue also understood in his heart. This is as his strength grows, and Kurosaki Ichigo, whose strength has not changed much, has begun to reduce his drops. That is, the possibility of relying on Kurosaki Ichigo to brush attributes is completely gone. In this regard, Lin Yue did not feel any regrets. The current Kurosaki Ichigo is still a bit weak. The next trip to disaster is the real big head. Whether it's because the captains released the water, or because they didn't lift the restrictions, they really couldn't fight, or for other reasons. All can provide Lin Yue with a large number of attributes. At that time, with the accumulation of attributes, maybe even the captain level after the seal is lifted, it is not impossible to challenge it. Shaking his head, he temporarily put the thought behind him. Ichigo, have you become hollow? After hearing this, Kurosaki Ichigo, who was still standing at the position where he was knocked out, was sure that the person in front of him was Lin Yue, and he hadn't turned into hollow. Suddenly a little embarrassed. What? He hastily smashed the mask on his face with the handle of the Zanpakuto knife in his hand, revealing his face. Scratching the back of his head, he said with some embarrassment. Sorry, Iki. I thought you had become a ghost. Sorry. Quote. It's okay. I also thought you had become Shu just now. Lin Yue smiled lightly and waved his hand. Only then did Urahara Kazuki slowly walk over. He glanced at Lin Yue with some surprise. His eyes lingered for a moment on the Zanpakuto that broke again in his hand. Well, first of all, congratulations to both of you for surviving. Also congratulations to Mr. Kurosaki who has regained the power of the Shinigami. Only, Lord Lin, your Zanpakuto. It seems that not only did it not recover, but it broke again. Quote. What? Hearing what Urahara Kazuki said, Kurosaki Ichigo also reacted. He just seems to have cut off the Zanpakuto that Lin Yue hadn't repaired. Immediately there was another burst of apologies. Iki, I didn't mean to. Kurosaki Ichigo had a slight twist on his face. Although he is not as arrogant as Ishida Ryu, he still feels a little embarrassed when he says sorry. It's just a big mistake to cut off Zanpakuto, and Kurosaki Ichigo couldn't think of any other way to express his apology besides saying, I'm sorry. Lin Yue raised the Zanpakuto in his hand and stroked it lightly. In any case, this Zanpakuto has accompanied him through the most difficult times. The name Miba Tien Kazuma is still firmly in his mind. If you go to Soul Society, finding Tien Yijun's family is also something Lin Yue must do. Man, since you promised, you can't break your promise. In the next second, a smile appeared on his face again. It's okay. Just break it off. I don't need to. Quote. Oh, Urahara Kazuki was even more puzzled. He looked at Lin Yue curiously, and even couldn't help turning around Lin Yue to look at his whole body carefully. Lin-jun, I don't quite understand what you mean. Kurosaki Ichigo is also very guilty. Shouldn't. Could it be that Iki became disheartened because he cut off his Zanpakuto again? He quickly straightened his face and tried to persuade Lin Yue. Iki, but don't give up. Save Rukia, we still need your power. Quote. Lin Yue raised his eyebrows. It's like this kind of words that are almost subdued, saying that you are not as good as others. From Kurosaki Ichigo's mouth, Lin Yue heard it for the first time. In the past, even if he was not as good as others in some aspects, he would always skip the topic at that time, and then find his place in other aspects. He didn't expect to force him to say such a thing now. In this case, how important is Rukia Kuchiki in Kurosaki Ichigo's heart? It's a pity that with such an important position, in the end, it was Inoue Orihime who came together with Kurosaki Ichigo. Bartender, you are. Strike out. Lin Yue shook his head lightly. No, I don't mean to give up. I mean, while talking, Lin Yue's hand actually pulled out a knife in the void. This is my real Zanpakuto. Chapter 31. Chapter 28 Test 3. A straight knife was pulled out of the void by him. This knife. It is different from the general Zanpakuto with a little arc. Straight, slender, with a sharp peak. A cold light flashed slightly on the blade. A flower bone that has not yet bloomed is carved on the body of the knife. Urahara Kazuki hastily lowered his hat to hide the astonishment in his eyes. This is awakened Zanpakuto directly without resorting to a sealed state. In the 1,000-year history of the Soul Society, such a situation has never been recorded. All Shinigami, who want to have Shikai's ability, need the sealed state created by Ermei Yuangyu as a stimulus. He even said it himself. Since the opening of the Soul Society, there has never been a Shinigami who was able to awaken his Zanpakuto without taking the sealed state he created. In front of him, a person appeared. Kurosaki Ichigo didn't know any of this. After seeing that Lin Yue still had a complete Zanpakuto, he immediately felt relieved. Happy to congratulate Lin Yue. Great, Ikki, I thought you were going to give up. I didn't expect you to be hiding something. It is good. Next, when I recover Zanpakuto, let's go to the Soul Society to save Rukia. Quote. As he spoke, Kurosaki Ichigo cheered himself up again. Seeing his slow but innocent look of confidence, Urahara Kazuki couldn't help but secretly rolled his eyes. This guy really doesn't understand the concept of being able to awaken Zanpakuto without using a sealed state. In a daze, Urahara Kazuki thought of something. If one can self-awaken Zanpakuto, is it proof that the unity of man and knife is not far away? He quickly took out his fan and slapped his face lightly to relieve the surprise in his heart. Do not. Can't think about it anymore. In short, it's so much fun too. Aizen, you probably didn't expect that I would choose an opponent with such potential for you. Thinking of this, the corners of Urahara Kazuki's mouth twitched slightly. After chatting with Lin Yue, Kurosaki Ichigo turned to look at Urahara Kazuki. With a somewhat arrogant smile on his face. Also, clog hats. You did this kind of thing without even telling us. Ikki and I were almost killed by you. But now, since I have come out of that deep hole, then, I'm going to kill you. Quote. Saying this, Kurosaki Ichigo pointed his finger at Urahara Kazuki. Oh ha ha ha. Urahara Kazuki laughed instantly, looking a bit sinister. He didn't answer Kurosaki Ichigo's words first. Instead, he turned to look at Lin Yue. Even he himself didn't find out. Between Lin Yue and Kurosaki Ichigo, his center of gravity has gradually shifted from Kurosaki Ichigo, who has the potential of 3 powers, to Lin Yue. Then, does Mr. Lin have the same idea? Lin Yue quickly waved his hands. Joke, is Urahara Kazuki's strength that he can defeat now? And even when he was playing against Kurosaki Ichigo just now, Lin Yue started to show weakness. This is all in preparation for going to Soul Society. Can't let Ikibe Hayasu pay attention to me. How could he agree to fight Urahara Kazuki? Isn't that exposing yourself? At that time Urahara Kazuki sensed Lin Yue's true strength. After entering the Soul Society, how does Lin Yue paddle? It's not known what Urahara Kazuki will think then. He is called by Aizen. In the Soul Society, the only existence that surpasses him in terms of intelligence. In addition, Urahara Kazuki is a person who knows the existence of the Soul King and obeys his consciousness. These smart people are dirty. Lin Yue doesn't want to be calculated all the way like Kurosaki Ichigo. There are also a lot of old silver coins in Shinigami, but these old silver coins don't like to express themselves very much, so it seems to others that there is no calculation throughout the story. In fact, the old silver coins in Shinigami are much more insidious than the shadow and thief next door. I'll forget it, there are still some people who are not used to their own strength. I have to get used to it first. Quote, hearing Lin Yui's refusal, Urahara Kazuki was a little disappointed. But he didn't force Lin Yue to do anything either. Just nodded. Then it's only Mr. Kurosaki. That's just right. Taking advantage of your current momentum, let's enter the third test. Quote. What? Kurosaki Ichigo squeezed out an angry hash on his forehead. He is very upset to see Urahara Kazuki. Kurosaki Ichigo might not be so angry if he was the only one being cheated. But the most unacceptable thing for Kurosaki Ichigo, who only wants to protect his friends and family, is to hurt his friends in front of him. And Lin Yue, although they were not particularly familiar with each other before. But when Rukia Kuchiki was taken away that day, he was able to stand up, and in the heart of Kurosaki Ichigo, he was already a very good friend. But Urahara Kazuki actually caused Lin Yue to fall into Shu's mouth. Although the current result is not bad, the unhappiness in my heart has not been reduced much. If he can't beat Urahara Kazuki, Kurosaki Ichigo won't let it go. The expression on Kurosaki Ichigo's face made Urahara Kazuki very satisfied. What he wants is this momentum. Immediately, he continued to add fuel to the fire. Correct. Forgot to mention that there is no time limit for quiz 3. As long as you can chop off my hat with Zanpakuto, you pass. Quote. Shua. As soon as Urahara Kazuki's voice fell, Kurosaki Ichigo instantly slashed out with a sword that condensed the spirit. The Reiko forms a sword chi through the broken Zanpakuto, slashing upwards from the ground. Relying on the instinctive reaction of the body, Urahara Kazuki quickly leaned back slightly, dodging the knife. But the knife air still cut a small slit in his hat. There are two things. The broken Zanpakuto also has such power. Quote. Urahara Kazuki glanced at the rip in the hat and continued to add fuel to the fire. Sure enough, Kurosaki Ichigo, who was somewhat proud of having regained Shinigami power by himself, was furious when he added fuel to the fire twice in a row. He curled his lips in disdain and jumped back. Of course. If I'm serious, it's not just that. You don't have to say that time is unlimited. Just 5 minutes is enough for me to clean you up. Quote. Urahara Kazuki's eyes slowly became serious. Then I'll give you 5 minutes. Let's wrap it up. Quote. Talking. He drew a Zanpakuto from his crutch and pointed the tip at Kurosaki Ichigo. Lin Yue quickly took a few steps back. He didn't want to be affected by the aftermath of the battle between the two. Urahara Kazuki, the old silver coin, who knows what he thinks about not participating in the third test. While Kurosaki Ichigo and Urahara Kazuki face off, Lin Yue carefully felt the Zanpakuto that was already hanging around his waist. After Fangwu changed his appearance, he hasn't had a good understanding of his Zanpakuto yet. In his heart, there is also some expectation. When Kurosaki Ichigo passed the third test, Urahara Kazuki should be judged to have failed, right? How many attributes will be picked up by then? Chapter 29 is about to set off. Perceived a bit of youth. Lin Yui's heart gradually became enlightened. There is a certain difference between the current youth and the original youth, but the difference is not very big. Feeling the current effect, Lin Yue couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. Who will this surprise be for? Talking to himself, Lin Yue glanced at the Zanpakuto with only a short section left. This Zanpakuto is Makoto Mibata. When Lin Yue awakened Zanpakuto on his own, he no longer needed the Zanpakuto. It can be said, everyone's Zanpakuto is different. This Zanpakuto has now changed back to what it was when it was in the hands of Tien Yijun. It can be said, this is the only thing left of Miba Tien Kazuma in this world. As for his soul, I am afraid that it has already become the spirit child of the Soul Society. Gently stroked Miba Tianichi's sealed state. Hang it on his waist. Lin Yue will definitely send this Zanpakuto back to his loved ones when he goes to Soul Society. He turned his head and looked at the battle. Do not. To be precise, it was Urahara Kazuki who was running after Kurosaki Ichigo. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo's speed has gradually slowed down. It seems that he should have begun to suspect in his heart that the knife in Urahara Kazuki's hand is not Zanpakuto. This was the first time, Zangetsu, appeared, and Lin Yue remembered it very clearly. Back then, when I saw this scene, I couldn't even mention how excited I was. Watching it live now is a different experience. After a battle, a puff of white smoke billowed from Kurosaki Ichigo's body. When the white smoke dissipated, the zanpakuto in his hand, with only the handle left, had changed. Like a large kitchen knife, the pitch-black blade inherits the size of the original zanpakuto. The blade is also slightly shining with a sharp luster. The handle is completely gone. Whether it was the gauntlet or the hilt sheath on the hilt that was supposed to be used for easy grip, there was only a layer of white entangled bandages left. A long section of the bandage was still floating behind Kurosaki Ichigo. The fight that followed became unconscious. Urahara Kazuki released the sea. But it was Kurosaki Ichigo who got the win anyway. Lin Yui's mouth twitched twice. This Urahara Kazuki is really insidious enough. Deliberately portray yourself as not very strong but not particularly weak, in order to hide their true identity. Coupled with the fact that he didn't seem to ask for Kurosaki Ichigo, but instead helped Kurosaki Ichigo, it made him look harmless. But only by truly understanding him can we know how deep his calculations and wisdom are. Lin Yue also didn't intend to expose Urahara Kazuki to death. Let Kurosaki Ichigo win. Urahara Kazuki, after all, can help Kurosaki Ichigo build enough confidence. He quickly got up and ran over, congratulating Kurosaki Ichigo. When running over, he deliberately ran past Urahara Kazuki. It looked as if he also had resentment towards Urahara Kazuki because of the previous incident, so he deliberately ran over to mock at this time. In fact, when passing by Urahara Kazuki, Lin Yui's system beeped. This made the joy on his face even more real. When Lin Yue ran to Kurosaki Ichigo's side, Kurosaki Ichigo had already fallen asleep from exhaustion from the sudden burst of such strong spiritual energy. But also right. As soon as he recovered from his injury, he started special training. First, he fought against Sumuya Rain in Life and Death. Then he fought Hollow again. Finally, I have to personally feel the Reiatsu that Urahara Kazuki has been released into the sea, but the strength is still very high. During this period, Kurosaki Ichigo never rested. Even if Kurosaki Ichigo is the soul at this time, he should feel tired. After all, before that, Kurosaki Ichigo was just an ordinary human soul. The pouch and knot were destroyed again. If you want to regain the power of the Shinigami, you need to constantly struggle between life and death. Be it the body or the mind. Break through your limits to become a Shinigami again. This is also thanks to the fact that Kurosaki Ichigo has a seed of Shinigami power in his body. Seeing Kurosaki Ichigo's performance, Lin Yue couldn't help but fell into deep thought. Should I also pretend to be tired? It seems to be a little too full of energy. Urahara Kazuki didn't think about that for a short time either. Probably in his heart, he thought that such intensive special training was not considered high intensity. Especially Lin Yue only ever felt against Hollow. It's normal to be less tired. He complimented Kurosaki Ichigo lightly. Wait until the compliment is over. Finally said. Test 3, pass. I knew in my heart that this was a prudent move by Urahara Kazuki to give Kurosaki Ichigo confidence. Even if Kurosaki Ichigo was asleep, he was afraid that Kurosaki Ichigo could hear him. Otherwise, why would you say these things in the state of Kurosaki Ichigo? Lin Yue didn't walk over until Urahara Kazuki finished speaking. Master Urahara, there won't be quiz 4 next, will it? Lin Yue, who is a showman, showed a very nervous look. He knew that the third test was over. But he had to put on a show so that he could clean himself of anything that might arouse Urahara Kazuki's suspicions. Of course not. Then, you can go back and have a good rest. When I open the door of Soul Society, I can go directly to Soul Society. Quote. Hear this. Lin Yue seemed to be relieved. He nodded. Okay, then I'll go first. As for Ichigo, let him rest with you and let him go back when he wakes up. Correct. Manager of Urahara. I think you should tell Ichigo about the Zanpakuto Shikai. Quote. Oh, Urahara Kazuki was a little surprised. Didn't Abarai Renji tell Kurosaki Ichigo Shikai that day? Obviously he used Shikai. I didn't think too much about it. Or rather, Urahara Kazuki couldn't have imagined it at all. Abarai Renji didn't say anything about Shikai because of the addition of someone who shouldn't be there. He nodded. Okay, Lin Jun, pay attention to safety. Quote. Back in his body, Lin Yue left the Urahara store. When I come back next time, it should be time to go to Soul Society. 7 days later, late at night, Lin Yue, who came to the door of the Urahara store early and waited, heard the original footsteps in the distance and slowly raised his head. Welcome, Kurosaki Ichigo. It's time to go. Quote. Chapter 30 Assemble. Mr. Kurosaki, you are on time. Really good, really good. Quote. Urahara Kazuki greeted Kurosaki Ichigo with a funny voice. But Kurosaki Ichigo's first reaction was not to greet Lin Yue and Urahara Kazuki. Instead, he looked unexpectedly at another person who was also at the door of the Urahara store. Sato Yasutora. Sato, why are you here? Quote. And Sato Yasutora stood up immediately. I'm going to help you save Rukia Kuchiki. I'll go as well. Quote. Forehead. What? Quote. Kurosaki Ichigo couldn't help but leaned back. He was very surprised that Sato Yasutora was going too. Sato Yasutora, for an ordinary person, does have a powerful body. The place to go is the world of Shinigami. How can he go? What? Didn't you hear clearly? Quote. At the time of Kurosaki Ichigo's accident, a familiar voice sounded behind him. Kurosaki Ichigo turned his head quickly. It's Ishida Ryu. Ishida Uryu's face was full of seriousness. Originally, he had hesitated to go. The unwillingness to lose to Shinigami, and the responsibility to let the Quincy continue to pass on, made him constantly entangled. Even if you are secretly training and strengthening yourself. But he never made up his mind. Training and strengthening oneself is just in case. Until that day. Hi, excuse me, I'm Ishida Uryu's classmate, I'm here to find Ishida Ryu. Quote. Ishida Ryu, who had just finished strengthening himself, suddenly heard a familiar voice from downstairs. He hurried back to the house from the balcony. The Ishida family is very rich. Ishida Uryu's father, Ishida Ryuxian, is a well-known local physician. But he hates Shinigami by nature. And, because he believes that saving souls is the job of Shinigami, he has been hiding from Ishida Ryu that he is also a Quincy. He also once persuaded Ishida Ryu not to learn the ability of Quincy. In short, the Ishida family is not comparable to the Kurosaki Ichigo family. The villa alone in the villa area has already shown how rich his family is. Downstairs, there is a housekeeper who is responsible for managing the house's chores. As soon as Ishida Ryu walked to the first floor, he saw the man the butler was blocking. Ikki, let him in, he is indeed my friend. Quote. After finishing speaking, Ishida Yulong turned around directly and led Lin Yue, who had already entered the door, to his room. That's right, it was Lin Yue who came. On the day Rukia Kuchiki left, from Ishida Uryu's words, Lin Yue could hear his entanglements. He knew in his heart that this was another butterfly effect caused by his appearance. The original Ishida Ryu, but because he helped Kurosaki Ichigo release a large number of spiritual particles, caused his arm to be seriously injured. So on the day Rukia Kuchiki left, when he couldn't use the power of Quincy, he was dealt with by Abarai Renji. Rescuing his friend, coupled with the pride of wanting to save face, led him to the decision to join the Soul Society with Kurosaki Ichigo. But now, Ishida Ryu was a spectator the whole time. There is no sense of blood shame at all. Lin Yue is also not sure whether he wants to go to Soul Society or not. Just take the initiative to find it today. How did you come? A few days ago, on August 1st, didn't Kurosaki Ichigo and the others make an appointment to go to the fireworks festival together, and then go on a trip after the results come out? You are not together. Quote. Lin Yue shook his head. I don't know those people very well. Only Arasawa Tatsuki can barely speak a few words, it's too awkward to be with them. Besides, I came here specifically to find you. Quote. Find me. Ishida Ryu gently pushed the glasses with his fingers. The reflections of the glasses just enough to cover his eyes. Lin Yue nodded seriously as if he didn't notice the subtle smile on the corner of Ishida Uryu's mouth. Exactly. Ishida, you should know that what trip is fake, right? Not right either. Which is kind of true. After all, a visit to the Soul Society is a trip. In short, are you going? Quote. Ishida Ryu didn't answer right away. Instead, He tactically picked up the cup on the table and took a sip of water. It has nothing to do with me, does it? Is that so? Then I know. Quote. Lin Yue nodded seriously, then slowly got up. It seems Ishida you don't want to go. Then I won't force you. Quote. After speaking, he was about to leave. Cough cough. Ishida Ryu suddenly panicked. If you say you really don't want to go, that's a lie. It's just that he needs a reason to convince himself. After all, in his cognition, the Quincy master in the whole world, but he is the only one. Bearing such shackles, Ishida Ryu had to carefully consider every choice he made. But Rukia Kuchiki, it's his friend. Lin Yue came to him today and just found a suitable reason for him. It's just the arrogance of his character that makes him want to hear Lin Yue's softness. In the past time, even though Lin Yue has always been the second place in the exam and was suppressed by him, he never said a word of similar request to Ishida Yulong. In addition, Ishida Ryu still wanted a step up. But he didn't think of it. Lin Yue was so decisive. I just hesitated for a while, but Lin Yue was about to leave. He had no choice but to cough twice, biting the bullet to persuade him to stay. Actually, it's not impossible to go. Quote. Hear this sentence. With his back to Ishida Ryu, Lin Yue showed a weird smile. Turning around, the expression on his face had turned into excitement. Really? Great. Ishida, I knew that after the battle that day, we were already good friends who lived and died together. Plus Rukia Kuchiki is our classmate. You're definitely not going, right? Quote. Ishida Ryu, who originally wanted to make a few sentences, was instantly resisted by Lin Yue's words. His face flushed slightly. He just nodded reluctantly. You're right. Okay, then 5 days later, see you at the door of the Urahara store. Set a time. Lin Yue really wants to leave this time. When he walked to the door of Ishida Yuryu's house, Lin Yue stopped suddenly. He didn't look back, he just talked straight. Correct, Ishida. Friends, but you have to cherish them. Don't wait until you lose it to regret it. I think you think so too. If you are worried about the inheritance of the Quincy master. What do you think? Why I don't come sooner or later, it's just this time. Is this when your father is away? Quote. Ishida Yuryu's pupils constricted instantly. Chapter 31. Getting ready to go, it's Gagan. Think of the scene that day. Ishida Yulong couldn't help but glance at Lin Yue. After that day, Ishida Ryu realized that he was afraid to ask his father if he was a Quincy. He just prayed in his heart. I hope my father is really a Quincy. In this way, even if they did not rescue Rukia Kuchiki, and even put themselves in the Soul Society, they would not let the Quincy destroy the inheritance. Ishida Ryu just glanced at it. Didn't ask anything. He knew very well that at this time, all irrelevant things could easily disturb his emotions. It has taken 5 days to calm down. He simply let himself act as if he didn't know anything. Looking at Kurosaki Ichigo, Ishida Ryu said seriously. You can't just lose to those Shinigami like this. I'll go as well. Quote. This way everyone is here. Kurosaki Ichigo opened his mouth and was about to say something to Ishida Ryu when he heard another voice behind him. He turned his head. Walking slowly behind him was Inoue Orihime. Inoue. Kurosaki Ichigo was even more at a loss. Lin Yue will go, he knows it. Both of them were seriously injured that day. Whether it's to save Rukia Kuchiki, or for revenge. Both of them are for good reason. But when Kurosaki Ichigo was ready to go to Soul Society with himself and Lin Yue alone, Ishida Ryu, Inoue Orihime, and Sato Yasutora actually said that they would go too. Please take care of me. Inoue Orihime smiled sweetly, bent over to Kurosaki Ichigo, and gave a 90-degree salute. Wait, what? Kurosaki Ichigo is going to be stupid. What's going on? Ichigo, you don't feel it, do you? Lin Yue couldn't stand it anymore. He couldn't help but said with a smile. The three of them have powerful spiritual power. What a dull boy. Yoruichi in the form of a black cat also slowly crawled over. During the time when you guys were doing special training to recover Shinigami's abilities, the three of them were also practicing separately. Just to be able to help you. Take a quick bow and say thank you. Quote. Black Cat Yoruichi blamed Kurosaki Ichigo unceremoniously. After all, it is Sado Yasutora and Inoue Orihime who practiced with her these days. Compared with Kurosaki Ichigo, Yoruichi at this time still has more affection for the two of them. Whether it's Sado Yasutora and her similar skin color, or Inoue Orihime's innocent and lovely kindness that day, Yoruichi unknowingly became close to the two of them. Cat. The cat has spoken. Quote, Kurosaki Ichigo felt that the shock he had suffered tonight was too great and he needed to take it easy. It's not a cat, it's Mr. Yoruichi, Inoue Orihime explained, and then looked at Lin Yue in surprise. She didn't see any surprise on Lin Yue's face. To know. When I saw the black cat Yoruichi talking for the first time, both Sado Yasutora and Ishida Ryu were like Kurosaki Ichigo, and I felt scared. Because of Arasawa Tatsuki's relationship, Inoue Orihime is not completely unfamiliar with Lin Yue. Not to mention the last time he was asked if he had seen Kurosaki Ichigo. Occasionally, when I went to pick up Arasawa Tatsuki to go home with him, I would also see Lin Yue, who was also in the karate class. Although he rarely speaks at ordinary times, he is at least a little more familiar than others. It was when Arasawa Tatsuki occasionally mentioned Lin Yue, the adjectives in his mouth were always, lazy, never practice, mud can't support the wall, and, very handsome. In any case, Inoue Orihime, who thought he was not that unfamiliar with Lin Yue, directly asked Lin Yue. Lin-jun, you didn't feel surprised, that's amazing. No, can this reach me too? The corners of Lin Yue's mouth twitched twice, silently complaining in his heart. He showed a wry smile. No, I'm actually quite surprised. But it's still within the range I can accept. 2 weeks ago, I didn't even believe in the existence of Shinigami and Shu, so I'm still a Shinigami now. Quote. Inoue Orihime nodded knowingly, reasonable and convincing. Okay, everyone, this is it. Urahara Kazuki was about to start a chat, so he quickly clapped his hands to attract everyone's attention. There's not even a place to stand outside. Anyway, let's go to the house first. Quote. Several people entered the house. When entering the house, Kurosaki Ichigo suddenly stopped Inoue Orihime. The two spoke a few words, and Inoue Orihime suddenly remembered something. She quickly ran 2 steps to catch up with Lin Yue. Mr. Lin, find me. Quote. Lin Yue was a little surprised. This headlight, isn't. How could this Inoue Orihime find him? Did you break up with Kurosaki Ichigo? Impossible. This is what I like Kurosaki Ichigo since I was a child, just like Naruto and Hinata in a certain movie. She is a child bride. Inoue Orihime folded his hands on his chest and made an angry look, as if imitating someone. Inoue, I heard you're going on a trip with Kurosaki Ichigo and the others for a few days, right? Is that kid Lin Yue going too? Hello, when the time comes, tell him to me. When he comes back, learn karate for me. It's been 2 years, he has been in the karate club, but he doesn't study hard, is he looking for a beating? And, come back safely. Quote, finished. Inoue Orihime changed into his own expression again, with a reserved smile on his face. Long Wei, she said so. Lin-jun, Long Wei, she probably guessed something. She is a little worried about you. Quote, Lin Yue froze for a moment, and the expression on his face gradually softened. Is that so? Don't worry, we'll all be back. Quote, thinking of the way Arasawa Tatsuki said these words, Lin Yue couldn't help sighing in his heart. In the past 2 years, he has obviously been deliberately reducing his sense of existence. Even the karate club, joining it was just to pick up attributes, and never followed suit. I didn't expect it. Obviously, Kurosaki Ichigo and Kurosaki grew up together, but they didn't get to the bottom of their hearts. Arasawa Tatsuki, who even dismissed ordinary boys, would pay attention to himself. It's a pity that his mind is not on these children's love. Shaking his head, Lin Yue still went down the passage and came to the ground. After everyone is here, Urahara Kazuki waited until the 3 of them who came here for the first time calmed down a little, and then raised their hands directly to their side. Intuitive. A quadrilateral gate made of crushed stones appeared in front of everyone. Chapter 32. The Gate Through the Realm. Come on, this is the door to the Soul Society. Those who pass through the world, pass through the gate. Quote. Urahara Kazuki's eyes gradually became serious. In the past, he has always appeared in front of Kurosaki Ichigo with a funny image. At this time, Kurosaki Ichigo actually felt a majestic aura from him. Listen up. You have to listen carefully. By the way, before that, Urahara Kazuki appeared behind Lin Yue and Kurosaki Ichigo in an instant, and poked the back of their heads with the tip of his cane. In an instant, the souls of the two were directly ejected from their bodies. You fool, if you want to do this kind of thing, tell me in advance. Quote. Kurosaki Ichigo yelled in displeasure. Others were amazed at the bodies of Kurosaki Ichigo and Lin Yue on the ground. Only Lin Yue's expression was serious. Seeing the reaction of Kurosaki Ichigo and others, he rolled his eyes in his heart. Haven't found it yet. Urahara Kazuki came behind the two of them in an instant and punched out the souls of the two of them. Moreover, when the souls of the two came out of the body, it seemed that the speed was the same. With such a speed, what if he didn't want to hit the soul, but really wanted to kill people directly? But Kurosaki Ichigo and others have never discovered this. It seems to have sensed Lin Yue's staring eyes. Urahara Kazuki, who was still laughing at the success of her prank, suddenly stopped and looked towards Lin Yue. The moment he met Lin Yue's eyes, Urahara Kazuki lowered his head. When he raised his head again, he smiled slightly at Lin Yue. Then I will continue. Urahara Kazuki turned around and continued talking. This door is fixed by the spirit sub-converter above the portal and combined with the cover. Spirit converter. When Kurosaki Ichigo heard this word for the first time, he couldn't help asking. That's right. As you know, Soul Society is the world of souls. To get in, you have to become a soul. But only Mr. Kurosaki, who is a Shinigami, and Hayashi-kun can act in the form of a soul. So use the spirit transformer to convert you into spirits and send them to the Soul Society. Quote. Ishida Ryu frowned, and transformed his body into a spirit sun, which he had never heard of before. That is to say, you don't need to let the soul leave, you just need to go through that door to enter the Soul Society. Urahara Kazuki didn't go to see Ishida Ryu though. But he knew what Shiraishi Tien Yulong was worried about. That's right, you can enter the Soul Society in your original form. Although not explicitly said, but with Ishida Ryu's wisdom, he could still understand. What Urahara Kazuki said is that after transforming into a spiritual society, they will not have any changes when they enter the Soul Society. Whether it's strength or something else. Hearing this, Ishida Ryu felt relieved. Okay, I get it. Then hurry up. Quote. Kurosaki Ichigo was a little impatient. He walked directly towards the portal, wanting to start teleporting directly. Boom. Urahara Kazuki gave him a cane when Kurosaki Ichigo walked up to him. Looking at this scene, Lin Yue couldn't help but draw a few black lines on his forehead. Have to say, Ishida Ryu and him, two smart people, seem a bit out of place in this team. Urahara Kazuki continued. We only have 4 minutes to open the portal to the Soul Society. Quote. As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. Is it too late? Even Kurosaki Ichigo, who couldn't wait, couldn't help asking. After all, Ishida Ryu and the others went to Soul Society, in essence, to help him save Rukia Kuchiki. He is responsible for their safety. Urahara Kazuki raised his finger very calmly. Often impossible, but if during this time, you do not pass, we will be closed. And you will be forever locked in the gap between the Soul Society and this world. Quote. Then what should I do? Inoue Orihime asked hesitantly. Of course keep going. Didn't I say that? Heart and soul are connected. Quote. The black cat Yoruichi walked forward slowly, answering Inoue Orihime's question as he walked. She also said something similar to what Urahara Kazuki once said. What matters is what your heart wants. It's the will to keep going. Quote. Finished. She looked at Urahara Kazuki again. Let me lead it. Just keep running forward, and those who can do it will come over to me. Quote. After Yoruichi finished speaking, Lin Yue walked directly to her side. Mr. Yoruichi, look what nonsense you are talking about. Of course we can do this kind of thing. Isn't life just a process of going forward? It is like this from birth to death. Quote. Yoruichi looked at Lin Yue in surprise. On Lin Yue's face, she didn't see any frightened fear, but a smile on her face. It was as if he hadn't heard what Urahara Kazuki had just said to her. That's right. What are you talking about? Isn't that what we came here for? Quote. Kurosaki Ichigo also reacted. He also came out of the crowd and stood beside Lin Yue, his face full of determination. Humph, Yoruichi sneered. You should be very clear, brat. If you lose, you can never come back. Quote. Then won't it be great? Kurosaki Ichigo showed no sign of backing down. There was seriousness in his eyes. I have to say, this kind of determination is the most touching. Yes, Ichigo is right, I believe Ichigo can do it. Lin Yue also slowly supported Kurosaki Ichigo. It's not that he deliberately gave up the C position to Kurosaki Ichigo, and he was the foil himself. It's just that it's all about paving the way for what's to come. Kurosaki Ichigo wants to save Rukia Kuchiki, and with the belief that it must be done, let him bear the most pressure. When going to Soul Society this time, what Lin Yue originally thought was to pick up properties along with him. In the Soul Society, there are some people who don't show up. Whether it's the Zero Division, or the first-generation captains who established the Gotei 13th Division thousands of years ago but didn't give way because of death. All need to be vigilant. Kurosaki Ichigo's status as one of the Shiba family of the 5 great nobles is enough to protect him. Not to mention, the patriarch of the Shiba family thousands of years ago, who was also the captain of the first generation's 13th guard team of the first generation, might not be dead yet. And Lin Yue is the real follower with no backstage. He has to be careful. Just like Aizen, he will never expose himself until he has enough strength and a complete layout. Chapter 33 Through the World-Ending Gate. Reminder to add more to. Well said. Yoruichi's heart fluctuated slightly. But she still pretended to be cold and replied. Shua. A blue light lights up. Urahara Kazuki is ready to open the portal. At this moment, the world transmitting gate just opened the spiritual sub-transfer machine. The moment the door opens, you rush in. He yelled. After getting a response from Kurosaki Ichigo, Urahara Kazuki finally opened the gate of crossing completely. Shua. The white light suddenly lit up. When the white light disappears, it was just Urahara Kazuki and Tessai Tsukubishi who helped open the door. Urahara Kazuki stood up, walked silently to the front of the crossing gate, and lightly touched the crossing gate with his hand. Stab. A wave of spiritual current directly opened his hand. He made a fist. Mr. Kurosaki, Mr. Lin, I'll leave it to you. Shop manager, is it really okay to scare Mr. Kurosaki then? Sudden. Tessai Tsukubishi on the side couldn't help asking. What he said was what Urahara Kazuki and Mr. Yoruichi said in cooperation just now. What? You said that? Quote. Urahara pressed his hat lightly. It's nothing, I just want to tell them that if they don't have the courage to keep going, there is no need to go. Whether it is the channel between the present world and the Soul Society, or the road to the future. The power of the heart is terrifying. Quote. Finished. Urahara Kazuki didn't explain any more, just sat aside and waited for 4 minutes to arrive. Just waiting. Urahara Kazuki thought of the expressions on the faces of the few people just now, and he couldn't help laughing at himself. Only, it seems that except for Lin Jun, everyone else doesn't care about it. His voice was so low that not even Tessai Tsukubishi heard the last words. In the channel through the gate. Several people ran desperately. Inoue Orihime's physical strength is undoubtedly the worst of all. Everyone also deliberately put Inoue Orihime in the middle position. The one in charge of breaking the wind at the front is Kurosaki Ichigo. Behind is Lin Yue. Behind Inoue Orihime are Ishida Ryu and Sato Yasutora. On the way to run, Ishida Ryu still had time to look back at the place he ran behind. He found, where they ran, the stone walls on both sides were constantly collapsing. Instead of looking back when you have time, it's better to run forward with all your strength. Yoruichi reminded. Next second, a tentacle made of mud appeared in the collapsed stone walls on both sides. This tentacle just grabbed Ishida Ryu's back and sucked him firmly. It's Kuru. Juliu is a kind of airflow that fills the segment boundary to prevent the invasion of virtual and other foreign enemies. If it is covered by it, it will be left in the segment boundary forever. Quote. Yoruichi reminded as he ran. Seeing that Kurosaki Ichigo was about to pull out the Zanpakuto, she immediately stopped her. Don't use Zanpakuto. Kuru will be attracted by the theory of Reiko. If you use Zanpakuto, you too will be hooked. Quote, Lin Yue, who was running ahead, suddenly turned around and ran to Ishida Yulong's side. He directly pulled Ishida Ryu forcefully. Actually pulled Ishida Ryu down. Behind his back, the absorbed clothes were torn apart. Quote. Sato Yasutora, who just wanted to save Ishida Ryu, was silent for a moment. Silently carried Ishida Ryu directly onto his back. Run away. Several people continued to run again. While running, Sato Yasutora couldn't help asking Lin Yue. Lin Jun, your strength. Nothing. Lin Yue quickly interrupted him without any intention of explaining. Sensing Lin Yue's attitude, Sato Yasutora thought of Lin Yue's inhumane legends in the past, so he had no choice but to keep his mouth shut. Just regret in my heart. It looks like he hasn't become friends with Lin Yue yet and can't chat casually like Ishida Ryu and Kurosaki Ichigo. While running, a faint yellow light suddenly lit up from behind. What? Ishida Ryu couldn't help but exclaimed. Behind them, a huge stone wall rushed over. Take a bright light, it is from the upper part of the stone wall. From a distance, it looks like the lights on a locomotive. Hateful. Yoruichi gritted his teeth. It's a tussle. The scavenger appears every 7 days. How could it appear at this time? In short, run. This guy is pretty fast. Quote, several people had no choice but to run desperately. But Inoue Orihime gasped visibly. She seemed a little unable to hold on. I don't know if it's because of the addition of Lin Yue. The distance of this boundary is surprisingly long. They had obviously been running for a long time, but they still didn't see the exit. Lin Yue felt the breathing of Inoue Orihime beside him, and his expression became serious. The boundary is the gap between the present world and the Soul Society. But the broken boundary does not refer to a world, but a space where several layers of partition spaces are stacked together and surrounded by the torrent of time. So the length of the break is also not certain. It may be very short as 1 step away. It can also be very long. Feeling guilty, Lin Yue hugged Inoue Orihime directly. Like Sato Yasutora, I carried Inoue Orihime on my shoulders. Inoue Orihime was stunned. How come? Was it picked up by Lin Jun? Kurosaki Ichigo, who has not yet understood his feelings for Inoue Orihime, couldn't help laughing and boasting when he saw this scene. Okay, Ikki, I didn't even realize that you have such great strength. Obviously you don't look that strong. Quote, don't talk, it's easy to get out of breath when talking while running, just run quickly. Lin Yue interrupted Kurosaki Ichigo directly. At this time, it is better to run quickly than to talk nonsense. He doesn't want to stay in the broken world. Originally, it was because of him that the boundary became longer. If Kurosaki Ichigo, who was hurt again, lost his temper and stayed in this boundary, then Lin Yue might have to stand up by himself. This time I come to Soul Society with Kurosaki Ichigo. On the one hand, I want to pick up some attributes to strengthen myself. On the other hand, it is also to prevent Kurosaki Ichigo from overturning. When I watched anime in my previous life, it was too thrilling. Lin Yue's home is in Karakura town. Without Kurosaki Ichigo's obstruction, Aizen Sosuke might have sacrificed the entire Karakura town in order to create the King Key. Even if Lin Yue has nothing to worry about in Karakura town, it is his home in this world after all. Finally, a light appeared ahead. I see the exit. But Jutu behind him has already leaned over. Inoue Orihime quickly regained consciousness. She can't care about anything else. Put your hands on the hair accessories on either side of your hair. Huo Wuju, Mei Yan, Lily. 3 days to form a shield. I reject. Quote, in an instant, the 3 elves turned into a triangular shield, directly blocking the crowd. Boom, a white light flashed. With a violent explosion, it was born in the broken world. Chapter 34. Saidanfang, Angry Lin Yue. The smoke and dust slowly dissipated. Several people stood up slowly from the ground. After Ishida Ryu replaced the spare cloak and Yoruichi scolded Inoue Orihime for his recklessness, everyone looked around. As this, the Soul Society? Kurosaki Ichigo couldn't help but marvel. The surrounding environment, dilapidated, old, and low-rise houses show the originality of this place, and even on some walls, there are cracks covered with paper. Compared with reality, this place is more like a backward village. Yes, this is the place called Rukongai. It is the place where the souls guided to the Soul Society initially reside. Located in the outer garden of Seirei-te, where Shinigami lived. It is the freest, the poorest, and the place where the most souls live in the Soul Society. Quote. Lin Yue pursed his lips lightly. If we say, just watching anime may not have such a deep feeling. But when he stood there and felt the stale smell in the air, he felt the same feeling as Aizen for the first time. Why, the poor of Rukongai are doomed to humble origins, but the Shinigami of Jinglingting are superior. Why, the 4 nobles are famous, the 46 chambers are fatuous and corrupt but manage everything, and the 13th division of the Guardian Court exists for them. Everything originated from the King of Souls, this nihilistic, meaningless guy. That's right, everyone is a soul, why should someone be born superior to others? He sighed silently in his heart. Lin Yue suppressed all the thoughts in his heart, trying to make himself look like he could fit into Kurosaki Ichigo's team as much as possible. Really, no one noticed Lin Yue's mood swing just now, and no one saw the change of expression on his face just now. But why didn't I see anyone? It's no different from the street where we live. Quote. Kurosaki Ichigo suddenly discovered that at the end of the street not far away, there was a place that was completely different from this place from the ground to the building. Compared with the poverty and backwardness here, as Kurosaki Ichigo said, there is no difference from the prosperity in the present world. The sharp contrast between the two sides makes the prosperity on the other side look more conspicuous. Over there is. Yoruichi was about to explain something, but Kurosaki Ichigo interrupted her abruptly. I see. That should be the place where Shinigami lives. It is good. Quote. Talking. Kurosaki Ichigo ran in the direction of Jinglingting. Seeing his movements, Lin Yue couldn't help but squeeze out an awkward smile. As expected of you, Kurosaki Ichigo. A few drops of cold sweat flowed from the forehead of Yoruichi the black cat. Stupid. Idiot. You can't go anywhere near there. We'll die. Quote. Yoruichi's voice just fell. Huge walls suddenly fell from the sky. The fall of the wall created a thick cloud of smoke. Only when the thick smoke dissipated did everyone see clearly. These walls actually surrounded the entire Jingling court. A tall giant stood in front of a wall that looked like a gate. There was a bit of joy on his face. It has been a long time. It's been a long time since I met a guy who wants to pass the Jingling gate without a pass. I finally have something to do. Quote. This giant is nearly 10 meters tall. Kurosaki Ichigo was like a child in front of him. I'll treat you well, boy. The giant looked down at Kurosaki Ichigo in front of him, his eyes full of excitement at the joy that appeared in the ordinary life. Wow, so huge. Who is this guy? That's not a body that humans can have, is it? Quote. Ishida Ryu couldn't help being surprised. During his journey to Soul Society, he found himself seeing so many things that he had never seen before. It also made him a little sad. Is the world of Shinigami originally like this? So when will Quincy surpass Shinigami? This guy is called Saidanfang. One of the heroes selected by Soul Society. I haven't finished talking just now. The center of Soul Society is Jinglingting. Rukongai on the edge is divided into 80 districts in the southeast, northwest, respectively, for a total of 320 districts. The outermost area is the outskirts of no man's land. Jingling Gate is used to separate the gate between Soul Society and Rukongai. There are 4 in total. They are Beta-Iman of Examen and Guanban Saidanfang, the Guardian. At Zuwaman, the south gate, the guard Biju entered the way. The Black Edge Gate of the North Gate is guarded by Duan Zhang-Wan. The Qingliu Gate of the East Gate is guarded by Wei Wan. Quote. Defender. So, if you want to enter, you have to defeat him first. Quote. Ishida Yuryu's expression became serious. Side by side, Sato Yasutora and Inoue Orihime were also ready to support Kurosaki Ichigo. Only Lin Yue felt more and more sad for Rukongai's soul. In order to separate Jinglingting and Rukongai, 4 gates were specially set up. But when no one wants to enter the Jingling court, the gate is not allowed to drop. I don't know what kind of pervert psychology this is, so there is such a setting. Could it be that people in Rukongai have to see what kind of sensual life they live in Jinglingting, which is so close to them, to be satisfied every day? This clearly gave the Rukongai people hope, but 4 gates were specially set up to completely kill the Rukongai people's hope when they wanted to enter the Jingling court. Even Ishida Ryu asked just now why there is no one on Rukongai, which should have the most souls. What else could it be? Of course, it was because they were discovered when they were still in the broken world and wanted to enter the Soul Society. So the Soul Society is on alert. But this state of alert is only for Jinglingting. As for the life and death of these souls on Rukongai outside Jingling Court has given up by default. The souls on Rukongai are all hiding because of the fear in their hearts. 46 rooms, you really have it. Lin Yue squeezed his fist lightly. I became more and more unhappy with Jinglingting in my heart. He glanced at Yoruichi, who was still explaining the identity of Seidenbo. I found that neither Yoruichi nor Ishida Ryu and others seemed to feel how unfair such a setting is to the people of Rukongai. Tread. Lin Yue suddenly came forward from behind them. Ikki, what are you going to do? Yoruichi quickly stopped his explanation and shouted at Lin Yue. Nothing. I just want to do what I have to do. Quote. Finished. Lin Yue stepped hard, and quickly jumped to Kurosaki Ichigo's side in a few consecutive steps. Suppressing the anger in his heart, he smiled at Kurosaki Ichigo. Ichigo, let me do it, your strength should not be wasted here. Chapter 35 Watchdog. What, is that so? Quote. Kurosaki Ichigo scratched his head. Alright then, Ikki, I'll leave it to you. But don't leave me behind too much. In the 5 days since we finished Test 3, I've been training against clog hats. Now I am already very strong. Don't force it. Quote. Originally, it was planned to take 10 days for the Black Knight to regain the power of Shinigami and Lin Yue to regain his Zanpakuto. This time, in Urahara Kazuki's plan, should be able to be completed just right. Certainly, of these 2 things, from Urahara Kazuki's point of view, the most difficult should be Lin Yue's finding Zanpakuto. Whether it's him, or Kurosaki Ichigo, both of them's Zanpakuto, the core thing, is someone else's, not a sealed state molded with their souls and spirits. If the Zanpakuto of the 2 of them belong to them, then naturally there would be no need for such trouble. Just wait for a while, Zanpakuto will be restored by the soul of the master. But someone else's sealed state transforms the Zanpakuto. Especially the trainee Shinigami who gave Lin Yue Shinigami strength back then, Mibatieni is really dead. In other words, there will be no soul replenishment at all. And, before Zanpakuto broke, Lin Yue had found Zanpakuto's name to perform Shikai. Not like Kurosaki Ichigo. Even if his Zanpakuto is broken, if she finds the name of Zanpakuto for Shikai, there will still be a chance for automatic repair. But what Urahara Kazuki didn't expect was that it took only 5 days for both of them to regain their strength and Zanpakuto. For the remaining 5 days, Lin Yue went home for rest. But Kurosaki Ichigo fought against Urahara Kazuki alone for 5 days and 5 nights. This is the reason why Kurosaki Ichigo thinks that Lin Yue is not as strong as him. Lin Yue nodded, with a serious expression on his face. Kurosaki Ichigo then slowly walked back to Yoruichi, arms folded on his chest. Well, let's look forward to Ikki's battle. Quote. Seeing his confident expression, Yoruichi was suddenly out of breath. What the hell are you doing? Saidanfang has guarded this gate for 300 years. Moreover, in these 300 years, no one has ever been able to pass through him. Quote. Danfang raised the corner of his mouth slightly. Good. You guys from the countryside know the rules. Know that sparring should be one-on-one. Then there is no need for me to tell you the rules. Boy, you don't look very happy. But it's okay, you won't be unhappy soon. Because you will be beaten to tears by me. Quote. Danfang wanted only showed his disdain. The expression on Lin Yue's face became more and more ugly. Behind him, hearing what Danfang said, everyone was a little puzzled. Mr. Lin, not happy. Quote. Inoue Orihime couldn't help asking Kurosaki Ichigo. Have it. Quote. Kurosaki Ichigo has a lot of nerves, but he never knows how to look at expressions that are not clearly shown by others. He could only scratch the back of his head to show embarrassment. But he thought about the way Lin Yue was talking to him just now. He stroked his chin and nodded slightly. Like. A little bit, right. Probably because the distance from Rukia has become very close, so I feel uncomfortable when I think of the hardships Rukia has suffered these days. Quote. Kurosaki Ichigo said with a grin. Well, Inoue Orihime immediately believed Kurosaki Ichigo's words. She immediately yelled, Mr. Lin, come on, don't be unhappy, we will be able to rescue people right away. Quote. But standing beside them, Ishida Ryu looked around thoughtfully. Then he looked at the tall wall again. I already had some understanding of what was going on in my heart. He sighed. He muttered to himself silently in his heart. Ikki, I think I know what you're thinking. However, this is the Soul Society, and there is nothing we can do about this situation. Compared to Kurosaki Ichigo, how I wish you were a Quincy too. In this way, the two of us will definitely make the Quincy flourish. Quote. In front of Betaemon, after Si Danfang finished speaking to Lin Yiwei, he chopped it down vigorously with the huge axe in his hand. Boom, the smog is back. The smog all over the sky blocked everyone's sight. That axe is really too big. In front of that axe, Lin Yiwei is like a small cat. If you are hit by such a huge axe, you will definitely die. Ikki. Kurosaki Ichigo couldn't help but let out a worried cry. The smoke and dust slowly dissipated. The figure of Lin Yiwei appeared in front of everyone. I don't know when, he has pulled out the Zanpakuto from his waist. And, used Zanpakuto to brace the axe of Seidenbo. You just. Is that all? Quote. Lin Yiwei said softly. While talking, he slowly raised his head. Si Danfang, I've heard of you. What? Si Danfang was a little surprised. Whether it was Lin Yiwei, the little man who took his own attack, or the words in Lin Yiwei's mouth. Crack. Lin Yiwei exerted force on his hand. Bounced back the axe of Si Danfang directly. I heard that you are also from Rukongai. How would he know? Yoruichi's expression became a little strange. Even she didn't know about the origin of Si Danfang. Why did Lin Yiwei, who came to Soul Society for the first time, know about it? Such doubts appeared in Yoruichi's mind. Si Danfang was also a little surprised. What, you kid from the countryside, you know my origin. Quote. Ah, countryside. Lin Yiwei couldn't help lowering his head and laughing. Si Danfang, in your opinion, is being born in Rukongai a good thing or a bad thing for you? Obviously from Rukongai origin, but when you gained power, you became the gatekeeper responsible for cutting off Rukongai's hopes. Now, they come from the countryside one bite at a time. Si Danfang, in your heart, do you think you are those noble masters in Jingling Court? Do not. You have to recognize your identity. You are just a dog responsible for guarding Jingling Court. Quote. You. Si Danfang was broken by Lin Yiwei's words. He stared blankly at Lin Yiwei, but couldn't speak. I couldn't help but have doubts in my heart. Could it be? Have I really changed? Bring it on. Si Danfang. Let me see what kind of strength you have as a watchdog who has been complacent so far. With the axe in your hand, come and touch my Zanpakuto. What a pity. I have guarded the gate of Jinglingting for 300 years, but I don't even have a Zanpakuto. It seems that the noble grandpa inside doesn't value you that much. Quote. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.